This is All Out Politics, news, debate and opinion from the heart of Westminster. Brexit is the issue that Theresa May just can't escape in her cabinet, in the Commons and tomorrow in Brussels, where she's attending a key European Union summit. But the Prime Minister also has to satisfy the public that she is in post to serve. Sarah Hadjibagheri is in Cambridge speaking to three people about how they think Brexit is going.
Yes, we're in Cambridge, famous of course for its world-renowned university, which has attracted both students and staff, many of whom are from Europe, and have given this city both an international demographic and outlook. Now, Cambridge really bucked the national trend that we saw across the country. Over 73% of people here voted to remain, and they include student Catherine, who is studying here at the moment. Now, Catherine, a year on, just considering your side lost that debate, you voted to remain. How are you feeling?
So I think the most important thing going forward is to make sure that we get the right Brexit deal. And that means remaining as close as we can to Europe with all of the benefits that we've got, and getting security for the millions of UK nationals who live in the EU and the EU nationals who live here and study here at Cambridge, and making sure that we can have the best sort of customs and trade relationships that we can.
You're 21 years old, and of course in your age bracket between 18 and 24, 75% of people voted to remain. Do you feel that you've been let down by older generations?
So I think that students and young people are really lucky in that we've been able to see some of the best benefits of the EU. We've got sort of international students in our classrooms. We can look out to the opportunities to work in the EU as we get older. And I think potentially that these benefits people haven't seen them so directly in other sectors of society, so I can understand why people felt that they might want to leave. I think that if 16-year-olds had been granted the vote, it might have helped the Remain side. But looking forward, I think we've got to sort of stand together and make sure that we have the best relationship with the EU that we can.
And Richard, I mean, you described yourself earlier as a liberal leaver. Do you think over a year later, do you think the Prime Minister is really going to deliver what you voted for?
I think we've got a very unusual situation. We've got a Prime Minister who doesn't really believe in what she's doing. She supports staying in the European Union, so it's difficult to see how that position is tenable and how that's in the country's best interests. And certainly for Cambridge, I think something we really need to do is get some certainty, and particularly for the EU nationals who are studying here, who are working here, raising families here. I think it's completely unreasonable to be using those people as a bargaining chip in negotiations. We should unilaterally now give those people certainty and say they're welcome here, and we want them to stay, and give them some confidence to carry on building their lives and careers here. And
on your list of political priorities, how important is Brexit to you?
Well, what I'm interested in, sort of what we're doing in the country, how we're running the country, things that interest me are things like it takes 40 minutes, so it can take up to 40 minutes to get an ambulance in the most urgent cases in Cambridge. Our hospital is full. Those are the things that really concern me, things like people can't afford to find appropriate places to live. And of course, Brexit and leaving the EU has an impact on those things. We've got sort of 12% of the people who are working in the hospital are EU nationals, so we've got to get that certainty. But really, my big interest is in the sort of things that are affecting mine and other people's lives. Like I said, housing, homelessness. So yeah, it is the more local domestic issues, and obviously Brexit has an impact, but a lot of it is sort of rather disconnected from everyday life. But it's so important that people get that confidence to know that they're going to be able to stay in the country.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because as we were speaking earlier, in the election that was just called earlier this year, you voted Liberal Democrat, which is quite different, of course, in terms of the fact that you voted to leave the EU. How do you kind of level those two?
Well, it's a matter of what's important, and we had an incredibly communicative and active Liberal Democrat MP here in Julian Huppert, a scientist, a rationalist, and I just thought he was the best person for the job.
And do you feel, I mean, because a lot of people have said that Theresa May really miscalculated that general election because she really focused it on Europe. Do you feel that actually politicians in Westminster, we come out to Cambridge to talk to people who are disconnected from normal people out and about outside of the M25, and actually Brexit isn't your top priority, which is the reason why you perhaps voted Liberal Democrats here?
Well, it's certainly... Obviously, it's important because it's so important that the university has got almost a third of its research students are EU nationals, and the the status of EU citizens really matters for Cambridge, and it's so important so that Cambridge can do what it does for the world, so that it can do progress in medicine, in the arts, in sort of exploring the universe, all the cool stuff that goes on in this city. We've got to have a good relationship with the EU, but there are other important things that are coming when it comes to voting for an MP.
And Piero, you're a local hairdresser. You probably talk to people more regularly than I do as part of my job.
Of course.
What's the word in your salon at the moment? How are people feeling?
Well, apart from the hairdresser, I represent a number of traders on Mill Road in Cambridge. I also link to many shops in Cambridge, so we share lots of information with the shop owners. The biggest problem is from the people coming to work in Cambridge. They find Cambridge quite expensive, and the exchange rates, euro, pound, is not in their favour as well. So it doesn't see much the reason why they're going to stay here anymore. Plus, the future is uncertain. For what people say is, if you've been less than 5 years, you have to leave. So what's the point in investing your life in this country? So the consequence of most of the shop, we are struggling to employ people because obviously they demand a certain salary, but at the same time the cost of the product has become too expensive for us. So if we compare some of the product in the UK comparing to France, Germany, Italy, whatever, Spain, it's double. And some of the items even triple. So how do you expect me to sell this product? It's difficult.
So you voted to remain. How do you think a year and a half on? How do you think the negotiations will go?
Despite what I voted, I'm quite an open person. I'm quite constructive. I'm trying to do, I said we do it in the Roman way. So, if we're going to stay. If we're going to leave, let's leave. Because as I said, the uncertainty is killing everyone, and I feel sorry for many traders because they're desperate to save their business. This is unofficial. They are employing even illegal people, trying to keep the door open. But to be honest, they're not going to last that long if we carry on like this. So it's quite bad.
So that uncertainty, even though we haven't even left yet, is affecting you?
Yeah, a lot. I feel sorry for Theresa May because, really, I don't think there is a prime minister capable to solve the problem if you have the nation, the parliament divided. Because the other side is going to do anything to stop it.
And Catherine, do you think Theresa May is the right person to do this job?
So I think she's the best in the moment that we've got, and as our Prime Minister it would be wrong to send anybody else in. I think that she's doing well as she is to balance sort of the views of sort of those on the backbenches of her party who want to leave immediately with a more extended transition period. Sadly, I think her initial statement where she said no deal is better than a bad deal isn't the best way to go about the whole negotiations. But I think she has come back from that and is looking for the most sort of productive and workable relationship with the EU going forward.
And Richard, considering that you voted to leave, how do you think negotiations are going?
Well, I think we've got to come up with some kind of arrangement for if we're going to leave the EU. But I wonder how divided we really are in the country or in Parliament. It sounds as if we're very divided when you say that when the country's split in the referendum. But actually, I suspect perhaps many people are sort of pragmatic, moderate people who just want to see practical arrangements so that we can keep the trade that we have, so that we can give people the certainty that they need, so that our economy isn't further destroyed by the situation that we're in at the moment, where we don't know what's happening next, and just give people certainty in their own lives.
I think we need a viable plan, because otherwise we cannot carry on like this.
That's definitely the message that I'm hearing from all three of you. You want that certainty that you don't feel that you're getting from Westminster at the moment.
And if the plan is not viable, I think that they should stop this Brexit, because it is going to be a disaster for everybody.
Thank you very much for joining us on Sky News. We wanted to give you a snapshot of how people are feeling in Cambridge. Of course, we've come outside of London to speak to people, but this is a town that a lot of people have called a town full of Ramonas, because it is a place where over 73% of people voted to stay in the EU. But it's interesting because a lot of people that I've been speaking to here in the market today are saying actually Brexit isn't still top of their priority list, and there are a lot of domestic concerns that they feel the government really need to get on top of.
Thank you very much indeed, Sarah. And we want to hear from you about Brexit and how it's affecting you. Do you want the government to get on with it, or are you worried about your work or your finances, as we've just been hearing from Cambridge there? Please email us with your stories at alloutpolitics@sky.uk.